Julio Urias will face 5 misdemeanor charges, like a bad traffic ticket. USC's best defensive lineman will enter the transfer portal, and we will break down the evolution of LeBron James. Sharpshooter. Good morning. I'm James, and this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports scene in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. So, it is April 10th, 2024. Welcome to the Sanctum Sanctorum of LA Sports. We also added a new subscriber to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. And if you like being in the know about LA Sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. I try to answer every last one of you. Now, before we go through the news and notes, we have an expanded look at the scoreboard today. Dodgers 6, Minnesota 3. Tyler Glasnow improves to 3-0 and 7 shutout innings with 14 strikeouts. James Outman, Will Smith, they each hit 3-run home runs. The Dodgers lead the NL West by 3.5 games. They are the only team in the division with a winning record. Meanwhile, LeBron James scored 33 points. And the Lakers took it on the chin last night. Golden State 134, Lakers 120. Now, Anthony Davis missed out. Headaches. We can presume that's the after effect of getting poked in the eye again. But I still have a huge problem with the Lakers because of this. They have 2 regular season games left. Now, it's doubtful that they escape the play-in round, which is okay, fine. But they're currently 9th. If you're 9th, 9 versus 10 means you have to win 2 play-in games in order to get to the playoffs. If the Lakers stay at 9, by the way, their season is on the line in a winner-take-all game against, wait for it, Golden State. Do you really want to risk that? The Warriors sank 26 threes last night. This is not the young Golden State Warriors, but every so often they can pull that one out of their rear ends. Paul George scored 23 points, but no Kawhi Leonard. Clippers still wound up beating up Phoenix 105-92. The Clippers will be no worse than the 5th seed in the playoffs. Akil Thomas scored, but the Kings lost in Anaheim 3-1. A win would have clinched a playoff spot. They also could have put distance between themselves and 4th place Las Vegas. Nope, didn't happen. The Kings should make the playoffs, by the way. They have 4 games left and they're all at home. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are at Minnesota at 10 a.m. Bobby Miller is 1-1 with a 5.87 ERA. Chris Paddock, no record, ERA 4.5. Phoenix is at the Clippers at 7:30. Kawhi Leonard, if he misses tonight's game, that is 6 in a row due to a knee injury. Before we get to the news, one final note. A gentleman asked why I don't have timestamps on the channel. I totally understand. Some of the teams I'm talking about, you don't care. The reason I don't have timestamps is because I have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. So I have to get working. I have to add as many as I can. Now let's get to the news. Former Dodgers starter, current free agent Julio Urias has been charged with 5 misdemeanors by LA City Attorney's Office in connection with a domestic violence arrest last summer outside of BMO Stadium. The DA previously decided not to charge Urias with any felonies. Urias, as a Dodger, twice finished in the top 10 in Cy Young voting. And Major League Baseball, by the way, was apparently waiting for the city attorney to make a move. So here's the move that the city attorney made. 2 counts of domestic battery, 1 each for spousal battery, false imprisonment, and assault. Urias will be arraigned May 2nd. ESPN says a bystander caught footage of the alleged incident on his cell phone, which is nice, but not as nice as, say, stopping it. Anybody remember when men or people would randomly say, hey, there's a woman getting assaulted. This'll get me some likes. Anybody remember when you actually said, unhand her, sir, and actually did something about it? Is it just me? Am I the only one with the black eyes on my record from having to stop that mess? But that's aside from the point. The prosecutor's report states that Urias, quote, pushed the victim against the fence and pulled her by the hair or shoulders, unquote. Now, I'm not big on naming victims in domestic violence cases, but from spousal battery, we can safely assume it's his wife. The report also said that the allegations and the injuries do not justify a felony filing. Urias had been suspended 20 games back in 2019 after he was accused of shoving his girlfriend to the ground. And you would imagine, just by common sense, a repeat offender would get something stronger. But an MLB spokesman had no comment on the case. For that matter, neither did Dodger manager Dave Roberts. Now, if you are wondering, what is the worst case scenario? A criminal defense attorney told the LA Times, quote, "I would be shocked," unquote, if Julio Urias went to jail. And without timestamps, I got this in the back. Let's move to USC. I didn't see this coming. But the best defensive lineman USC had from last season is apparently entering the transfer portal. Bear Alexander is apparently looking to go to his third school in as many years, according to 24/7 Sports. He will be immediately the most sought after D lineman in the transfer portal, which is obviously a position of high value. Getting into the backfield regularly, enabling your teammates to get to the quarterback, yeah, it matters. 24/7 Sports also sees Alexander, who posted 48 tackles with 1.5 sacks for a terrible Trojans defense last year, as the 14th best player available overall. He is a 300-pound disruptor that pretty much any team would want. But here's the strange thing about Alexander's career. He is the definition of a rambling man. He went to 3 different high schools in Texas. Then he goes to Georgia. Then he goes to USC. And since he would be eligible for the 2025 NFL draft, there is no reason, none, to think that Alexander is going to stick around this next school for more than a year. It's craziness. Now, to be honest, I can only guess why Alexander would want to split. Because I was under the impression that this guy would thrive with defensive coordinator DeAnton Lynn. It is a hit to the USC defense. I think you'd be fooling yourself to say otherwise. But I would argue that it's not catastrophic in the sense that former defensive coordinator Alex Grinch valued smaller defensive linemen. If you were a big guy, you'd get benched with Grinch. But there is now a focus on functional, physical, larger defensive linemen with DeAnton Lynn. So I believe that there will be people lining up for those snaps. Just saying. Maybe it's just me, but has anyone else noticed LeBron James buries a lot of three-pointers now? He sinks 41.3% of them. 13% better than last season. And has anyone else noticed that he's playing a lot of games compared to the last few years? He hasn't played this many since he played every game of the 2017-2018 season. Can I posit a theory that the two are connected? It's not so much that James shies away from contact, but perhaps he's changed his game because when you're pushing 40, bully ball doesn't have to be your only side to the game. I mean, bully ball only has to come out once in a while. James Worthy used to have the quickest first step in the game back in the 80s, but his game evolved with a fadeaway because his quickness faded. Kobe Bryant took a lot more jumpers because he couldn't dunk as often after he blew out his Achilles. But back to the shooting accuracy, because that will most definitely help the Lakers in their attempt to advance in the playoffs. James has allegedly shifted the positioning of both his shoulders and his hips in order to become more squared to the basket. A shooting coach told ESPN, quote, "I always felt LeBron leaned a little to the left when he shot from outside. Now he's lining up a little straighter and it's making a huge difference," unquote. You know where it will make a difference? Also, longevity. James says he doesn't have much time left, and of course he's right. but less contact is going to extend the tread life on those threadbare tires that much more. By the way, speaking of Kobe Bryant, the spelling errors on his statue outside Crypto.com arena have been fixed. At least the artiste didn't spell Kobe with a Y, so we got that. We've been talking way too much about Bronny James because he's related to you-know-who. One of the questions that we brought up is, does Bronny James excel enough in one particular area to be draftable? Because unnamed NBA execs said if you're going to draft a one-and-done guy, he at least has to excel at one thing to the impact of an NBA player. In other words, wow, that prospect, he can't shoot a lick, but man, he protects the rim. Man, he's hard to score against in the low post. That's an example. Now, Shams Charania, The Athletic, went on a podcast I don't listen to, and let's be real, there's not a lot of podcasts I would listen to. And Charania said, quote, "When I talk to NBA teams, there's a clear consensus that as a defender, he's ready at that caliber of an NBA defender," unquote. I don't buy that. I don't buy it at all. Because if Bronny James were an NBA caliber defender, James would have played a lot more minutes. Straight up. Not only that, he would have played those minutes against the top guy on the other team. Right? He plays NBA level defense. Right? Because the other team would probably only have one guy who needed to be locked down on an NBA caliber defender, quote unquote, that would have helped the Trojans a lot. Didn't happen. Bronny James was a reserve. Kobe Johnson was their big D guy. Now look, Nick Young, if you remember him being at USC, Nick Young was a bit of a goofball, but he got to the NBA and had a lengthy career because he showed he had NBA caliber defense. He D'd up on Kevin Durant, who played for the University of Texas in an NCAA tournament game. Bronny James had no such defensive showcase. He only played 25 games in college in the first place. So no, I don't buy that story for 1 second. Not at all. Meanwhile, the LA Times took a look at the remains of the Trojans roster, and you have to wonder if they low-key enjoyed the masochism. That's not my kink, getting hurt, but who are we to judge, right? 3 players are definitely done. 6 more, as many as 6 more could go, transferring. All 3 players that former coach Andy Enfield recruited reopened their eligibility. They also included Isaiah Collier as someone who could return, but let's be real, that was a half-assed mention. Even before Collier committed to USC, it was obvious the dude wanted to go to the NBA draft after his freshman year. So that's a ton. That is a ton. And by the way, for Collier, the deadline to declare is April 27th. But where does Eric Musselman and the Trojans go from here? Because it's pretty much looking like a birthday party where everybody hated the kid and nobody wants to go. So I'll put it to you this way. If there was big news to share about the future of USC basketball, the writer would not have put it at the 18th paragraph at the story. There is nothing. I mean, they're going to have a roster, but there's not a lot of explosions coming, not a lot of big stories. Musselman says that he hits the phones at 5 a.m. so he can reach prospects in the Eastern time zone. Like I said, there's going to be a roster, but I think we'd be fooling ourselves to say USC is going to have a great year next year. They might be a handful to handle. Musselman can coach. But, you know, let's not book our tickets to the Final Four. Speaking of that, the way too early top 25s that you'll see online that drop literally minutes after the championship game is over, neither UCLA or USC basketball are listed. Edge rusher Cho Bryant-Strother has entered the transfer portal, which is a problem because he is the only edge rusher on the UCLA roster. That's gotta suck. And no, it's not USC basketball, where is the basketball players kind of suck. The dude is in the portal right now as opposed to April 15th because he is a graduate transfer and you get a little bit of leeway for that. Bruins coach Deshaun Foster whistled past the graveyard on that one, claiming how he was excited to see what could happen this spring. That's like saying I'm excited my parents are getting divorced. Same thing. You're lying. 2 converted defensive tackles have lined up on the edge this spring. They will add 2 transfers in the fall. But look, they lost 5 since the end of last season. Leatu Letu was an edge rusher. They had a couple of twins, the Murphys. One is probably going to the NFL as well. That is a lot of pressure from the outside that UCLA is losing. Meanwhile, long snapper Ryan Wilkins also returned to the transfer portal. He lost his spot on the team. MLS is holding something of a showcase tournament of their academy prospects. I would tell you the name of the tournament, but the corporate sponsor of that tournament isn't paying me, so to hell with them. Anyway, a prospect each from the Galaxy and LAFC have been turning a lot of heads. Now, I am a Galaxy supporter. The reason I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Galaxy Academy winger, Mathis Albert, is because it's highly unlikely he's going to play for the Galaxy at all. He's so good, he's pretty much already got his passport ready. They're talking about him going to Europe, and he's only 14. LAFC, on the other hand, might have a guy who could eventually fill the shoes, or possibly fill the shoes, of midfielder Ilie Sanchez. Defensive midfielder Jude Terry is a 15-year-old regular for the U.S. Youth National Team. Scouts like his technique, they like his decisiveness, and it's not necessarily a sure thing that he's going to Europe. So he actually could impact the black and gold in a positive way. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about Julio Urias and what you think might happen. Talk to me about if you think USC can withstand the loss of Bear Alexander. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.